Thanks for having me. It's really great to be here. I do feel like I'm in a room of champions. Hat off, I don't have a hat on, but hats off to the Blind Foundation, Accessibility TIC, and each of you on your journey in your organization. It's really an honor to be here. My name is Lainey Feingold. I'm from Berkeley, California in the US, and I'm a disability rights lawyer. I've represented the blind community in the US for 20 plus years. My work as a disability rights lawyer has been entirely focused on access to information and technology. People need to understand that if things are not accessible, people with disability are locked out and they can't participate, and the more the world gets to be digital, the more people are locked out without accessibility. Today we're going to talk about dreams, fears, and cookies, baking accessibility into your organization. So I'm going to go through the ingredients: transparency and accountability, and I have a couple examples for each one. That's the first one. This is a video. This is Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, and I just want to play the first 30 seconds of this video.
Hi, we are here to learn about how to give inclusive presentations. And to help me do that, we have Brian Stormer from our Microsoft 365 marketing team. Brian, welcome. I know inclusive presentations is something that's top of mind whenever you're speaking to any audience. And do you want to talk a little bit about how you go about creating an inclusive presentation?
Yeah, definitely. So we know that over 1 billion people on the planet have a disability, and 70% of those disabilities are invisible. So it's so important for you to make sure that your presentation is inclusive, because the reality is you never know who in your audience might have a disability.
This is a global thing that's happening, and New Zealand is small enough that you guys can really be front center leadership of it. I feel like knowing that Microsoft's doing it is kind of like a safety net, sort of. The next ingredient is something I learned from Microsoft. I always knew that hiring people with disabilities was an important thing. I've always been for diversity. I've always been a public interest lawyer. But until I did that presentation with Microsoft, I never really thought that part of the accessibility program is hiring disabled people. Because as a Microsoft lawyer said, if you're designing something and the person in the next cubicle is deaf, you're not going to put up a video without captions. There's been a lot of work done, and people writing about the advantages of a workforce that's diverse and includes disabled people. When you get disabled people in, it's not just some random thing about hiring disabled people, but it's going to influence the service the company provides, because whoever's in that part of the company offering the service, they're going to know a person with a disability. And that's really the key, to get people with disabilities into the process to make progress.
23% of our population, in fact 24% of our population in New Zealand identifies with disabilities, so that's over 1 million Kiwis, and obviously 1 in 4 of us. So that's represented in organisations' customer base and in their staff pool as well. The experience that many employers are realising is that it is very good for business, and I guess in my particular experience that has brought me here today, operating a service station network throughout the Waikato, at one stage employing over 200 people. We had a real focus on disability. Disability also meant stickability within our staff pool. Our customers related very much to the fact that we had diversity, including disability, within our workforce. It was just a much happier and more rewarding workplace for us all to go to every day.
These are the eggs. Too often, especially in digital, people think coding and design is the only thing. And it's not. All these other ingredients, the employment, the transparency. Yes, you have to have the coders and the designers know that accessibility matters. You have to have accessibility standards as part of your organization. Testing is a key element. You have to have a good testing program. You got to start, and you got to start at the beginning. And there's amazing data on when you wait and test at the end, how much it costs to get the thing fixed, and how little the fixes stick. You have to start at the beginning, and they have to be integrated throughout. Okay, so then the next ingredient, baking soda, training. Who needs training? You have to train all customer-facing staff. even if you think they're not related to accessibility or your hiring program or diversity, because if you have customer facing, they are going to face a customer with a disability. End of story. We were working with the credit reporting agencies in the US, and the credit reporting agencies have to give a free credit report once a year. A blind woman called up. She said, I need my credit report, I'm blind. Customer facing staff said, can't your mother help you? This is a good example of how a mother helps. A mother helps a young child. A mother does not help a 45-year-old woman who was this client read her private financial information. So she said, trying to be game, you know, my mother's dead. She really can't help me. And then the woman said, don't you have a neighbor who can help you with that? This is your credit report. You know, who else? All procurement officers. If you're buying anything, that person needs to know that people with disability need access. You really need to build accessibility into your procurement systems. And if your procurement people aren't part of your journey, maybe they don't even know you guys are in this room right now. Think about who needs to be trained in your organization and who doesn't. I think that might almost be a better question. Who doesn't have anything to do with tech or products or customers or designing systems? I mean, everybody needs training. The flower is probably the most important, and that is disability culture. The best companies like Microsoft have created a culture of accessibility within the organizations. And you have to have that, because if you want to grow your organization, which you do, you want new products, new services, new ideas, innovations. You want them happening all the time. And anything new, if accessibility isn't part of your culture, it's going to fall through the cracks. I've just seen it happen too much. So again, you're not alone on this. There's a great quote from Tim Cook, who's the CEO of Apple. Maybe you guys have heard it. He said, when we work on making our devices accessible by the blind, I don't consider the bloody ROI.
I've got a number of people that are very close to me that are disabled, and I didn't even think they were disabled, which in its own way was kind of ironic. My mother had been blind for 50 years, my wife's got a cochlear implant, and my nephew's got a cerebral palsy son, and I just didn't even consider that they were actually disabled. But the reality of it is they are, and everybody, I challenge anybody to think about it, and all of a sudden you realise that there's a huge part of the society that deals with this on a daily basis. We are, as a company, in a position to be able to influence it, so I believe we should, and it's easy. You know, it's a thing that we should be doing. It's nice to do something which you can see some real benefits for people, not just making money on the bottom line, but real benefits. I just think it's the right thing to do, and that's the long game for me, is just to convince other people that it's not that hard.
So the last ingredient is the salt. Now, salt goes in the cookie. Those of you who bake know that if you don't put the salt in the cookie, it's not sweet. It's not a good cookie. But it's only a small amount. And that's why I put the human rights law and legal compliance as a salt. It's got to be part of the cookie. You guys need strong laws to do what you know your company needs to do, but don't put too much salt in the cookie. We need a strong legal foundation, but we have to make sure that compliance is not the only driver. So it's that fine dance between having a strong foundation and making sure everyone involved can hear each other's stories. So one thing I love about structured negotiation, which is the work that I do, is that people with disability can listen to the stories of business and understand better what the constraints are, and business can listen to disabled people and understand the need, and put together you can make a path of accessibility. It has to have that strong foundation. The early ADA had a requirement that ATM machines be independently usable by blind people. It didn't have any specific standards, but it had that one line, independent usability. And so we were able to work with that line and get banks and blind people together in a room to say, what does it really mean to make an accessible ATM? Because initially, bankers thought, oh, we'll just put Braille up on the machines and that will meet that requirement. But by talking, the bankers could understand, oh yeah, if the machine doesn't talk, if it isn't an audio jack, and how should the keypad be laid out, where should the money come? Now in the US we have very specific regulations about talking ATMs, but that came after industry and the community sat down and created them. When you have a strong accessibility program, you are keeping out bad code, bad policy, bad design, and you are letting in technology information that allows people with disability to have dreams. Whether those are big dreams about education or employment, or little dreams about being able to use your website and get in, get out fast. Choose cookies. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to share with you. And